Looking at this physical Hebrew text of Genesis, the genealogy rolls continuously until Enoch, who walked with God and he was no more. The following chapters are suddenly dominated by violence and powerful entities, providing no context for where these demonic forces originated. The traditions of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church preserve the account that speaks where the Torah is silent. This is the Book of 1st Enoch, and specifically the section known as the Book of the Watchers. 1st Enoch attributes the collapse of the pre-flood world to a violent cosmic breach. The text introduces the Irene. These are the Watchers, the sleepless, high-ranking sentinels of the divine court, originally assigned to supervise the earth. But 200 of these sentinels break rank. Led by an angel named Samiyaza, they look down upon humanity with a volatile mix of lust and ambition, deciding to take human women as wives. They descend to the summit of Mount Hermon. Knowing the severity of their planned treason, Samiyaza forces his subordinates to swear a binding oath and a mutual curse upon the rocky peaks. By sealing this pact on the mountain, the Watchers lock themselves into a premeditated mutiny. This specific oath serves as the inciting incident for the collapse of the earthly order. The Watchers took human wives, but their intervention went much further. As this diagram maps out, their greatest crime was the illicit transfer of classified celestial technology. They split up and began teaching humanity forbidden sciences. Following the branches for Azazel and Gadriel, we see the introduction of metallurgy and weaponsmithing. They taught humans how to forge swords and armor, while also introducing cosmetics to facilitate physical deception, directly fueling industrial warfare and vanity. Moving to Armaros, his domain was the manipulation of spiritual forces. He unlocked the secrets of sorcery and the resolving of enchantments. Down the line, Barakel and Kokabiel revealed the signs of the stars. They introduced astrology, shifting human reliance away from divine providence and onto planetary movements. Finally, Penemu taught the art of writing with ink and paper. According to the text, this hard-coded physical recording permanently eroded humanity's primordial oral wisdom. The writers of 1 Enoch characterized the sudden arrival of these concepts as a cataclysmic corruption of the natural order. Under this framework, industrial warfare, weapons manufacturing, and the occult are the direct result of a demonic technology leak. This technological corruption was matched by a biological consequence. The union of Watchers and humans spawned the Nephilim, a hybrid race of towering giants described as standing 300 cubits tall. These colossal offspring possessed a single fatal trait, a rapacious, insatiable appetite that the earth simply could not sustain. The giants rapidly consumed all of humanity's agricultural acquisitions. They exhausted the food supply, stripping the ancient valleys until the land was dead. When the resources run out, the Nephilim cross a terrifying threshold. They turn their violence directly onto humanity, devouring human flesh and drinking blood. This cannibalistic violence plunges the earth into a state of total ecological and spiritual defilement. The Watchers' intervention has now pushed the natural world to the absolute brink of destruction. With no options left, humanity cries out to the heavens. Those cries of a devastated earth reach the highest divine court. The archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel hear the pleas and petition God to intervene. God authorizes a targeted martial response. Uriel is dispatched first, sent to warn Noah that a planetary cleansing of the surface is imminent. Gabriel is then deployed to trigger a brutal civil war among the Nephilim. He incites the giants to turn their violence against one another, executing a plan to wipe out their physical presence. Raphael's target is the weapons master, Azazel. In a landscape resembling these desolate rocky cliffs of Qumran, Raphael binds Azazel hand and foot, casting him under heavy rocks in the absolute darkness of a desert known as Dudael. Finally, Michael targets the ringleader. He binds Samiyaza beneath the hills of the earth, imprisoning him and the remaining Watchers for 70 generations to await the abyss of fire. This was a surgical military strike designed to neutralize the angelic mutiny before the floodwaters arrived. Enoch himself is sent as the final messenger to the imprisoned watchers. They beg him to deliver a desperate plea for mercy, but their intercession is violently rejected. The great flood washes over the earth. The massive waters eradicated the corrupted landscape and completely destroy the physical bodies of the Nephilim. But here, the text reveals a tragic twist. While their physical bodies are drowned, the disembodied spirits of the hybrid giants survive the flood. Because they were born of both heaven and earth, these wandering spirits are cursed to remain on the earthly plane. In the Enochic tradition, they become demons, the persistent source of sickness, temptation, and madness. The apocalyptic flood erased the physical giants, but it did not erase the rebellion. It left humanity to grapple forever with the lingering, invisible scars of a fallen cosmic mutiny. The account of the Watchers falling to earth is only the opening chapter of the Book of Enoch. The text rapidly expands from a localized human story into a sprawling, universe-spanning anthology. During the 1st century CE, the complete Book of Enoch was a mainstream, highly revered collection of writings for both Jews and early Christians. Researchers discovered multiple copies of it hoarded in the desert caves at Qumran, stored carefully alongside the foundational Hebrew scriptures. These tightly wound ancient parchments provide undeniable physical proof of the text's widespread preservation. Yet, despite serving as one of the most widely read accounts of the ancient cosmos, the Book of Enoch is entirely missing from the modern Western Bible. The astronomical book mandates a strict mathematical order, a 364-day solar calendar, perfectly divided into 4 91-day seasons. This rigid solar math forces every year and season to start on a Wednesday, the exact day the biblical text states the celestial lights were created. The collection contains the Book of Dream Visions, which features a section called the Animal Apocalypse. This provides an allegorical retelling of human history, using animals in place of people and angels. In this vision, Israel is represented by a flock of sheep, while foreign empires are depicted as violent predatory beasts set upon them. Further along, the Book of Parables introduces a figure called the Son of Man, a messianic, eschatological protagonist seated on a throne of glory to judge the wicked. These writings represented a direct threat to the religious authorities of the incoming era. Following the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Rabbinic Judaism entered a period of strict consolidation to ensure the survival of the faith. This graphic compares Enoch's solar calendar against the Hasmonean lunar calendar adopted by rabbinic authorities. The math is completely incompatible, meaning followers of Enoch would calculate official temple feasts on entirely different days than the ruling establishment. Enoch's intense focus on supreme angels and heavenly thrones also pushed dangerously close to what the rabbis condemned as the two powers heresy. By the 5th century, Christian authorities followed suit, actively distancing their congregations from the text and erasing it from Western canonical lists. The Book of Enoch was actively excised. Its calendar and cosmology were incompatible with the rigid legal and ethical frameworks required to govern a fractured post-temple world. Far beyond the theological purges of Rome and Judea, the book found a permanent sanctuary. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and the Beta Israel community fully preserved the entire anthology in the ancient Ge'ez language. The text survives as an illuminated manuscript used in active canonical worship. The Book of Enoch survived its Western execution because this isolated community ignored the later debates of the Mediterranean world and kept reading exactly what they had originally received. Around the 5th century CE, while the physical book resided in Africa, the specific ideas of Enoch went underground in the Middle East. Hekaloch and Merkabah mysticism took hold in Babylon, a movement obsessed with visionary ascensions to heaven. This underground movement produced a radical new text known as 3 Enoch, written pseudonymously by a figure named Rabbi Ishmael. In this narrative, Enoch is violently and physically pulled up into the celestial realm inside a chariot of storms. In the shadows of Babylon, the prophet of the Second Temple period was rewritten into something terrifyingly divine. 3 Enoch details a visceral, physical transformation. Enoch's human flesh turns to roaring flame, and his veins become rivers of fire. His eyelashes become flashes of lightning, and his eyeballs ignite into blazing torches. God then places this fiery entity on a throne next to his own, granting him the title of the supreme angel, Metatron. Within these mystic texts, Metatron carries immense theological gravity, bearing the explicit title of the Lesser Yahweh. Mainstream authorities attempted to erase Enoch, but they ultimately fractured his legacy. He remains canonical scripture in the highlands of Ethiopia, while in the fires of Jewish mysticism, he evolved into a supreme celestial deity.